Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of It Takes Two. I am your host Ruby Soa, and we'll be delving into issues related to marriage, family issues and issues that are related to people that we care about the most. I'm once again excited to be joined by two wonderful guests. To my left, Mr. Ali Reza, assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, he'll be providing a psychological view on the issues in our letters. And to my right, we have Sister Jaffa, assalamu alaikum, who is our resident alim. So she'll be giving the spiritual aspect and the Islamic aspect of the issues raised in the letter. So I'm just going to jump right in because this is quite a long letter. So it starts, Dear It Takes Two, I feel I have been tricked into marriage by my current wife, and I don't believe that my son is mine. I think he is someone else's. I met my wife, who at the time was living in the UK, while I was living in America. At the time I was looking for a wife, and one thing led to another, and she became pregnant. So I did the right thing, and I married her. After visiting England and going to see her neighbourhood and community, I came to find out that she had been in lots of relationships, and I felt that people in the community were looking at me like I was a fool, as I am the husband with the wife who has a reputation. I have tried to confront her about this, and she keeps giving me a sob story. I am really tempted to get a DNA test to see if the child is mine, but I'm scared about the possible results. It's hard for me as I have bonded with the child. I just don't want to be bringing up another man's child just out of principle. I don't want to be in a relationship with this woman who possibly lied to me, but I'm not one who walks away from their responsibilities. Please advise. Wow, subhanallah. That is a fully loaded letter. Okay, where do we start with that? Let's deal with the issue of deception. Is there ever a time that we could hide something? Is there ever a time that maybe Islam can acknowledge that we are scared and we've made some decisions that, other people's lives may be impacted, say her families? He has mentioned she was known in the community. Is there anywhere in Islam that says, I'm just looking for a defense, because she is a sister at the end of the day, we've got to stick together. So is there anywhere that where we can just think of the family?
I don't think you can actually tell your husband that the child is his when it's not. That is just wrong Islamically. There is no, you can't do that. It's not fair on the husband, it's not fair on the child. The child has a right to know who his mother and father are. In fact, so much so that even inheritance is deemed according to who the mother and father are. So, everything, it just all falls apart. So no, but at the same time, there's a lot of ifs and buts here. There's no proof as such. Okay, she may have had lots of relationships, and again, this is what he's hearing. What does it mean that she had relationships? Were they halal relationships? Were they not? Or was it just that fact that she was just comfortable talking? What does it mean? Mm-hmm. You're hearing things from other people, and people tend to remember things from their perspective, and they have this picture of people from their childhood, which they then take on. And that's what they remember. It's like, when people see me, they always remember me as, as the child I was, when I've changed a lot. So again, what happened before she married him has really not that much relevance to after the marriage. The fact that he's sitting there questioning the fatherhood of the child, I think is a huge deal. What is he basing that on? What he's saying is that she's committed adultery. And you cannot give, you can't accuse someone of adultery without witnesses.
Well, he has confronted her, and so far she's been giving sob stories. Okay. Why not come and say, I'm not sure, or
what has he confronted her on? On her lifestyle before he married her? Or is he actually outwardly asked her, is this child mine? It doesn't
What if
say
she
that he
doesn't
has.
know?
Then I think he has a right to have a DNA test. But
Right.
again, nowhere in the letter does it say that he actually has asked about the child. It says, I've confronted her about, I'm assuming that it's the lifestyle that she had before he came into the picture. And again, she's given a sob story because, you know what, we all make mistakes. And, you know, we move past those mistakes, we learn from those mistakes, and we become better human beings from asking for forgiveness and then moving on. I don't think that is grounds to suspect her for the fact that the child is not his. I don't think that is right.
So Ali Reza, as a man, what impact would this have on him psychologically? You know, when you have a question and you have suspicions, but you don't really want to know the answer. I feel that he wants to know the answer, but part of him doesn't because it's out of fear. What does this do to him psychologically? I mean, do you think she even realizes, I mean, he says he's confronted her. Psychologically, would he feel demasculated, for example? What?
I think there are many aspects to this. One is what he's feeling about the child, what he's feeling about the wife, how he's feeling about both of the wife before marriage, after marriage, and the community. Therefore, there are many factors here that he really needs to clearly distinguish between the two. His relationship with all these factors and the fact that the relationship between those people and him.
Which one should he start on first?
From himself.
Right.
You start from yourself, your relationship to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You start from there. What is your responsibility towards Allah? And therefore, how is it psychologically affecting me? Well, the route is very clear. Either the lady has lied or not. Either, if he's before marriage, if I may say so, if he's done before marriage, the aqd is batil anyway. If he's done before marriage, if there was a lie and deception before marriage.
Is that
Now,
correct?
well,
In your opinion?
Sorry, can you repeat
if
that?
if the marriage was based on deception
Deception.
and lies, therefore the contract of marriage, as far as I've heard from the ulama, is batil.
Well, he has grounds for divorce.
Okay.
He doesn't need
Yeah.
grounds for
Ground for
divorce. He can
divorce.
divorce. Yeah.
But more important than that is what the sister said, psychologically, the potential to love and forgive. Now, if we do either, if she's deceived him, now you either got you've got the potential to forgive her or you haven't. If you have, then forgive her, be honest with her, and get her to be honest with you, and say, well, whether you have or if you have, I'm going to forgive you. If you haven't, then fair enough. Now, it takes a lot to do it, undoubtedly. It does take a lot. But the key thing is we must at all times contract and recontract and look and relook and reevaluate our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's over and above everything else. The love is there. The question is, how much potential do we have to take it? Now, therefore, if he's man enough to stomach it, say fair enough, I'm not going to leave. I'm very glad to hear he said, I'm not someone who can walk away from my responsibilities. The question is, if you can potentially forgive this person and base it on element of truth from now onwards, that is the key thing. Forget the community. You know, because
we just live in one.
Well, no. Hold on. If we forget the community, if it means we have to bring a family together,
understandably.
in a positive sense, you forget you forget the community because you're doing something good.
Let's bring the sister into this forgiveness. You know, it's an attribute that we we aspire to get to, being able to forgive. Do you think this possibly is a forgivable act if it is what he thinks he is? And how do we get there?
Okay, first of all, I think, yes, any act is forgivable because we're expecting God to forgive us for everything that we've done. And if we're expecting that forgiveness from him, then we need to practice that forgiveness on each other. Okay. Secondly, we're assuming that she's done wrong based on her past life. That's a huge assumption to make. Maybe she did have a really bad past life. Maybe she did do lots of things wrong. But when she met him, he's been the only person for her and, she's been totally faithful to him. Again, he needs to have that conversation with her and find out, was it things that had happened in the past? Did this happen after marriage? Was this child conceived, was she with someone else at the same time as she was with him? Again, was she in a relationship with him when they conceived the child? Because he says, I did the right thing and I married her. So does that mean that they weren't in a muta relationship? Or so again, if they weren't, he's done wrong as well.
Whoops.
Yeah, so all of these things, he needs to look at himself as well. If he was not in a relationship with her, he can't just say, well, one thing led to another.
Well, that's why he married her. He felt...
But the relationship itself, if there was nothing recited, was wrong to begin with.
But that's why I think he feels that I'm going to...
But what I'm saying is, do you see, it's like you're not looking at what part you played in that. And you're just assuming because she has a past, therefore she must have done something wrong as well. I think that's a huge assumption to make. And the fact that he's talking about having a DNA test. Now, if he has this DNA test without having that conversation with her, then it's a no-win situation. Because if the DNA test shows that he is the father, she's going to be mad that he didn't trust her and he didn't talk to her and he didn't ask her. If the DNA shows that he's not the father, he's not going to be able to continue with the relationship the way he's sounding, that he can't bring up another man's child. So I think before anything like a DNA test is done, there needs to have a conversation there where he needs to actually ask her straight out, is he my child? Because that's the thing that I think is a huge deal to him.
How does he prepare himself for that conversation? Because he's visited it once. Does he keep badgering her?
This is a very fundamental...
Go ahead.
Sorry, has he actually visited her? Has he actually asked her straight out, or has he asked her about her past life?
Well, he hasn't clarified.
I think what he should do, he should sit down and generate a lot of questions that is really bothering him, and take his time, over a week, 2 weeks, whatever it takes. And definitely, when you write your questions, don't just suddenly go and give it to her. Let it all sink in. Think about it for a couple of days. If there are anything else you want to add or take off, do that. Once you're completely happy with those questions, and actually, if you're talking Sam, say, I would like to have a meeting. There are a series of things I would like to talk to you about. And maybe because she may not have a clue what all this is about, or she may be in full control of acknowledging what is happening. Therefore, and start from the simplest question in that meeting.
For example?
She may have 15 questions, 10 questions. Start from the simplest one. And make sure all your mobiles are off, make sure you've got time, make that 1 hour, and also make sure that you say to your wife, this is not an interrogation.
But I've got 20 questions.
Well, of course, it's his right, and you might have a few questions to ask as well. So we do need to have these questions. Now, if it helps, have it between yourselves. If you think, it's not a secure situation, emotionally secure situation, then have it in the presence of a professional. But you must get this out of your system and get things straight. No relationship can survive without trust and honesty. Make no doubt about it. And as far as the child is concerned, let's not forget the child.
Yes.
Now, the child, you've said you cannot bring someone else's child. Your contract, first of all, is with God. Now, if you have got attachment to this child, therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put this child on your path. Acknowledge what Allah is doing to you, His rahmat and barakat towards you. Therefore, if you, is not an ideal scenario that this child was not yours biologically, but technically it's yours. You do a DNA test, you either find out that it is biologically yours or is not. If it's yours, all these fears and worries is put to an end. If it is not yours biologically, and you are technically the father of this child, you need to say to yourself, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I have been blessed by protecting someone, given an opportunity to protecting someone in my lifetime who didn't have anyone else to be protected by.
Now, in this situation, he's already on shaky ground. He has his doubts. Who's to say that he will believe anything she says? So when we're in a situation that we're emotional or angry or we have doubts, what Islamic things can we do to avoid, the shaitan whispering in our ear or inflaming the situation more?
I think, again, if like brother said, you can't have a relationship which is not based on trust. You have to have trust. So if you're going to have this conversation, you need to, you know, sort of put it down that, you know, we're having this conversation and we need to be truthful, and then we can move past this, whichever way we decide to move past, whether we continue with the relationship or not. But we need to be totally truthful, because we can't continue living like this. You know, we need to know both, you know, just like he has rights to ask her, I think she has rights to ask him as well. Maybe she's, you know, debating about his past as well. And again, she has the right to ask him about things.
So if someone confronted, say, me, in the situation, for example, I don't think my relationship could withstand this. If it's that much doubt, and I would say, well, actually, he is yours, or is it a he or she? The child is yours. How do you move on from this situation? It's such a big question mark on the relationship. It's not like, okay, let's all have dinner now. We've had a chat.
Well,
let's
no,
go
it's
back
not going
to
to happen.
normal. How does
As I
that
say,
happen?
it does need to have. It's a major psychological issue,
Right.
and therefore the brother does need to do this maybe with a professional who can help him to go through this. It is involved. It's a very involved issue. It's a very heavy-duty issue. It's not a light issue. It's very deep and wide. And therefore, but the key thing is, with further investigation, priority needs to be put on whether both parties are prepared to resolve their issues, forgive each other, and work on trust and honesty in order to build this further. Now, if they both had the potential, then fair enough, there will be help to do so. If they do not have the potential for whatever reason, you might say, she lied to me, it's my right not to want to live with her, and therefore he needs to do it under circumstances that with full of her rights is reserved, and therefore if he wants to separate for one reason or another, then that's up to him to do so, and no one can decide for him. His relationship with this child is also very important. Therefore, there would be a lot, very extremely involved. I would, in a nutshell, suggest to brother, number one, list all his questions. Number two, seek professional help. Number three, have a meeting with the wife, either with or without the professional, depending on the circumstances. Number four, try and clearly outline his relationship with the child, and therefore move on and start a new, emotionally relieved, peaceful relationship, either with the wife if they can accommodate it, if not, you know, whatever he decides to do so.
When we're about to go on this journey, the poor brother and the poor sister, prayers, what can they do?
I think when I have this meeting, I would ensure that we're both clear that God is present in that meeting and He's listening to us and He will help us move forward, but only if we are truthful. So I think that's one way of sort of bringing God into the actual mediation part of it. Secondly, I think one of the things that He's focused on is what everyone else is thinking of Him.
Yes.
He's the one who's got who's married to the one, you know, with the reputation. His wife is the one who has the reputation. That's not the basis on which to break up a marriage. You know, again, if it happened in the past and she's asked for forgiveness for what she's done to God, and it's not something that's happened in their relationship, then it's something that he needs to look at the bigger picture and the responsibility and the fact that we all make mistakes. So again, you know, it's really, really important that he builds that connection with Allah, where then he asks for the strength to be able to forgive her for the past. And
Yes.
if it does happen that she's done something after she's been with him, and maybe the child is not his, again, it can still work if he has the strength to forgive her.
Do we have any examples of any personalities who made any special kind of supplications in order to prepare themselves for whatever Allah had decreed?
Well, you have, for example, you know, when Prophet Yaqub's sons came back and he knew they were lying, and he turned to Allah and asked for that strength to be able to, you know, continue his relationship with his sons, even though he knew, You know, he made it quite clear to them that he knew they were lying when they came back with the torn shirt of Prophet Yusuf. So, you know, he still continued his relationship as a father to his sons, knowing what they had done was, you know, he may not have known the full extent of what they'd done, but knowing that what they told him was wrong. So, you know, that strength came from Allah to continue that relationship.
Brother Ali Reza, could you, so he's thinking, and I'm sorry if you have to repeat yourself, he's thinking about the DNA test. Now in this day and age, we take it for granted. It's on TV, we just go to the chemist, we pick one up. We're not really thinking about the afterwards and the ramifications that could result in, you know, God forbid, if it's something we don't like. Are there any mental steps we can take to prepare ourselves for? It's not like a soap opera, you know, like if this is your child, this isn't your child. Should we not get ourselves in a headspace where we need to be ready to do this?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
how? What do we do?
We need to be very honest with ourselves. We need to say, I need to get my life on the right path. I need to be stress-free. I need to live a peaceful life. Peace starts with yourself. Doesn't start from the outside world.
That's
if you're
really
peace
important,
with yourself.
yes.
Therefore you say, I need to iron things out. Therefore I need to say to myself, I need to get to the bottom of the truth. I have to like myself first before expecting anyone else to like me. If you don't like yourself, how can you expect other people to like you? If you don't like the act of what you've done yourself, then you can't expect anyone else to do it. Then you have to forgive yourself. You have to, as the sister said quite correctly, you have to ask for repentance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are plenty of people in the past who have done lots of wrong things and they have repented and Allah has forgiven them. You know, whether the people, what they've done, that's up to them. The question is, therefore, you prepare yourself for honesty and the truth. Of course, the truth hurts, but you cannot keep going on the wrong path.
Do you think it would be better if he didn't do it?
Well, if he didn't do it?
Yeah, if he didn't do the DNA test.
Well, that's his decision.
You know, sometimes they say ignorance
well, that's his
is
decision.
bliss.
At the end of the day, whatever we say here, the brother has to decide for himself. You know, the viewers will need to just make the decision themselves. But you know, if he is unhappy about the relationship, if he is anxious and worried, then he needs to make a decision. Which route should he take to put the relationship and himself at peace? That is what he needs to decide on.
I think I would emphasize that he needs to have a conversation with her first and foremost. Because as a sister, if my husband didn't trust me when I told him that I know for a fact that this child is yours and he feels he needs to get a DNA test to prove that, I don't think that relationship would survive.
Would he even have to tell the sister? He doesn't necessarily have to.
But
so far it's been going on like this allegedly.
So it's working.
It depends again on how old the child is.
Yeah, how old the child is.
Yeah. And then, you know, the reason why he's all of a sudden okay now.
So let's just play it forward. The child is his. We've gone through all this drama. Everyone's upset, feathers ruffled, heartbreak, tissues everywhere. What now?
Well, if the child is his.
Yeah, everybody's hurt. The wife's gutted. He's just feeling embarrassed. How can they even come together at this stage with?
Nothing's impossible.
Okay.
If forgiveness and love is injected into the situations, it's all possible.
What if she says, I don't think I love you now, you've put me through...
We see, love is not like a tap that you turn on and turn off.
Oh, okay, right, nature viewers.
So, you know, it's a developing issue. Okay, at one point they might be hurt, they might, you know, not like the action of the other party, but they need to look at the broader picture. You know, what's at stake is their whole relationship, is the whole family, marital relationship. And remember, a contract of marriage is done. Our contract with God is a contract between two people. This is the difference between having a religious, faith-based belief and a non-faith-based belief. Therefore, we are contracting with God, first of all, and then we have obligations towards the other party, both parties. So if he's comfortable with doing this, then he must accept the consequences both ways. If he's not comfortable with it, but he's at ease with himself, then, you know, forget the test, forget the test, just say whether it is or it is not, I'm going to honor my duty as a father, and I'm going to love and seek from now honesty and truth from now onwards for myself and for my spouse.
And I think she has to remember, if he does do a DNA test and it does come out that he's the father, then it's her ego that's not allowing her to forgive him. And it's a matter of sort of, you know, okay, you didn't trust me, you didn't do, you know, you didn't just take my word for it, but for the sake of my child, because the child needs a mother and a father, I'm willing to forgive you, because that's what God would want me to do. And we need to move past this now and build a relationship with, you know, with the three of us, and hopefully other children that will come into the mix, and, you know, move on as a family now. So a lot of the times I think, and again, you know, the fact that he's worried about what other people are saying about him is to do with his ego. So, you know, a lot of the times the ego is the thing that drives our decisions, where it should truly be, you know, what God wants from us, rather than, you know, what my ego is telling me to do.
Do you have a message for the community, especially the young people, where things can go out of hand sometimes? What message would you give them in terms of, it can be hard, you know, the nafs is a crazy powerful thing, but how do we keep things within the boundaries that we have been set?
When it comes to relationships?
Yes.
I
Premarital relationships.
Yeah. I think first and foremost to remind yourself that the marriage is probably the most difficult, but at the same time probably the most pleasurable relationship you will ever have in your life. And there is no way a marriage can work without God's blessing. And if you start it off on the wrong foot with doing haram to begin with, then really what right do you have to turn to God and say, now bless this marriage? You know, I can't be sitting there disobeying Allah, doing whatever my desires are telling me, and then saying, okay, now I'll marry him, I'll do nikah, and expect God's blessings on that nikah. It doesn't work like that.
Would you like to close with anything? Any advice? Especially for brothers who are talking to people from abroad who are not sure that they're being fed honest information.
Well, I think it's extremely important to start off on a relevant, on honest footing and a balanced footing. Don't be too obsessed, at the same time, don't be too naive. You need to balance it out. You know, and therefore, if something doesn't make sense, question it. As the sister said quite correctly, allow the emotions to follow later. Start with your logic and open the doors. After you've married, close your eyes to all faults and open your heart. Before marriage, open your eyes and close your heart.
I love these quotes. We need bullet points from both of you.
Before marriage, you know, question, and obviously you must like the person, but if you open your heart out and you say I love you and you've closed it, and afterwards it will all hit you big time. And go on, if you're a scientist, and I'm sure plenty of people, you've got logic, you've got brains, search on the internet. You know, this issue, I'm going to be very point blank, this relationship issue of boyfriend, girlfriend, the culture of boyfriend, girlfriend, has started probably about 70 or 80 years now. It hasn't worked. Clearly, go by data. Don't take my word for it. Go by data. If it worked, you wouldn't have, in a Western society such as, you know, North America, you've got religious education, religious schooling soaring, because you've got 9-year-olds having twins. So therefore, it just doesn't work. Now, what I am saying, though, let me be very clear. I am saying open your eyes and step by step search for the right partner. I'm not saying close your eyes and go and, you know, in the registry office. And that can be done. Seek help from Allah. Seek help from the Aimma Masumin alayhim salam, and do your prayers and do du'as and open your eyes and you use your logic.
Inshallah. A riveting topic. We wish the couple well. And do write in and let us know how things evolved and what happened in the end. We do like to stay in touch with the people who write in to us. It's been a wonderful show. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Inshallah, we will see you on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
La da 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 dum, bum, 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 da 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 da.